Hey everyone, looks like we are live. We made it to yet another Wednesday. I hope everyone is having a great week. It's so great to see everybody. And here we are. We're just going to have a kind of relaxed live stream. Just continue working on this classical portrait with a very new technique using the airbrush and my India inks right here, my little India ink sets. And we're just going to continue developing them, which is really fantastic. So that is, very important to build a underpainting or even a finished painting using the India inks, which you can basically do anything from here. To me, it's the foundation to everything: pastel, oil paints, acrylic. Using the amazing illustration line or the Wicked line by Createx. So it's really a great technique. Hey Colette, how you doing all the way from the Atlanta area? Great to see you. Dave, how's it going from Texas? How are you, sir? Great to see you. We have Dan from Indianapolis. How are you today? We have a great group here already. Thank you so much for hanging out on this Wednesday. I really appreciate yous. Patty from Illinois, how's it going? We have a real Midwest thing going right now, which is good. And so, fantastic. Colette and Dave and Dan and Patty and Michael, how's it going? Michael, all the way from the Maryland area. So glad to see you. How you doing? And so great group so far. So excited. Always great to have great people. Great people and art. That's a fantastic combination, I think. So that is great. And so cool. So glad you're doing great there, Dave from Texas. So that's amazing. And Tone, how's it going, Tone? All the way from New York. How's it going? Fellow New York City public education kid like I was. So definitely. Tone, what high school did you go to? I went to the High School of Art and Design in Manhattan, and then I went to Junior High School 10 in Queens, Jackson Heights. Though I lived in Astoria, that was considered Jackson Heights, right by Bryan High School. So that is so great. Everyone's so glad to see you. I'm just going to kind of wipe my glasses clean so I'm not seeing things that are not there. And let's see, it worked pretty well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start, even though we are pretty far along with this portrait. Oh, Beach Channel High School in Rockaway. Very cool, Rockaway Park. Not far from the beach. That must have been great. You probably played hooky, a lot of times. When the weather was hot, I could imagine. Thanks, Dan. Dan's saying the painting's looking good. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. And so, yeah, we just keep in this technique, of working on the India ink portrait in airbrush. It's a slow, steady build of value. And that's why I always say too dark, too soon, too bad, right? And so what we want to do is make sure that we are building up slowly and kind of bringing a lot of the area together. That's the technique from the beginning. I am exploring a different technique where we pretty much work on one side, fully develop it, and kind of bleed out. But that's in oil. So right now we're doing it this way. But it's funny because, with working in realism, there's so many different ways to get incredible results, and not one way is the right way or the wrong way, I feel. If it works for you, it works, and that's fantastic. When I was a youngster, I would seek out artists. I was lucky enough to live in New York City, and I would seek out painters that I admired, and I was like, I don't care, I'm going to go to whatever school they're going to, and that's kind of how I did it. So today we have online classes, we have live streams, we have other things where we can pretty much pick and choose different aspects of different techniques and kind of combine them to kind of make our own soup, our own technical soup. So that is very great. We live in very good times to be an artist, especially an artist who is exploring different techniques. I'm going to go ahead and cover everything except for her dress. We're going to develop her dress. Wow, Dave, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate you. I'm just so thankful for you hanging out on Wednesdays, being a part of the discussion and your great comments and your friendship. And then on top of that, your support. It really means the world to me, sir. And I just want to say thank you so much. You are amazing. Oh, so I got all your, I actually got all the stencils and the line drawing ready for you last night. So that's going in the mail very shortly. So, and then I'm going to give you the, because Mr. Dave is taking my online course, the how to get a likeness. And so, oh, you're enjoying the inks. That is fantastic. And so that's going in the mail soon. And let's see, let me put this on here. So if anyone doesn't know, I have a couple of online courses that pretty much take you from the very beginning to the very end. And it's really great. Mr. Dwayne, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. San Luis de Obispo. Go Banana Slugs. Nope, go Mustangs, not Banana Slugs. And so you'll be traveling for 2 weeks. Oh, okay. So definitely. So I'll make sure I get it out to you. And is there a place for it to be held, or should I wait for that? Let me know, Dave. I'll hold the mail. Okay, good. Okay, so I'll hold on to that. So I know you're traveling to California and different places. Okay, definitely. So definitely I will hold off on that. I just wanted to show you. So this is what I make for those who take my online course. It comes with the line drawing. Actually, I gave 2 line drawings to for this course here. All the stencils, and then it's like a 5-hour course where you go step by step. So that's all set and ready to go. And I'll wait until you get back. So, Dwayne, how's life treating you? I just want to say thank you so much for the super chat, sir. It's just amazing. As everyone knows, Mr. Dwayne is super knowledgeable with custom paintings. He's like a mural master, and and he imparts his knowledge, and we all benefit from it. I benefit from your friendship and your support, sir. California, Nevada, Kansas, and and then Missouri. Are you going to be near St. Louis? I once was engaged to a girl in St. Louis. I like St. Louis a lot. It was a nice small city. They have a really nice little art museum. You can do it in one day, but it is a nice little art museum. Oh, by Kansas City. Okay, so that's right by the Missouri-Kansas border, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I spent most of my time in St. Louis, and I really enjoyed it. The park is nice. I went inside the arch, and the people were very sweet in St. Louis. Dwayne says, life's been good, been real busy, was going to take a nap, but, okay, so thank you so much for hanging out with us. We get to talk to you, and I really appreciate that. There he is, Mr. Steve Leahy. Right now hailing out of Ohio from Massachusetts. So very cool. So I'm so glad you're here, sir, and loving what you're doing. Your artwork is just kicking butt as always. Steve, quick question. We all want to know, when is your YouTube live stream Have you decided what the regular time slot could be so we can all kind of jump on? And what I'm going to do while Steve is getting ready to give us the $1,000,000 answer to the $1,000,000 question, I'm going to take this here and I'm going to take my detail mixture. So we have the medium, the light, and just the one that we need is over here, which is our detail mixture. Hey, Cordelia Neal, how's it going? Queensland, Australia, great to see you. Oh man, how are you? And so I'm so glad you're here, Cordelia. That is such a very nice name. I love that name. Are you an airbrush artist, Cordelia? Am I saying it right? I'm probably not. I do apologize, but I'm so excited you're here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and do half and half with water. So I'm just going to coat the bottom like so, right over my painting. I learned that from Steve Leahy. And so I always love seeing new people part of our community. I'm always so excited to see it grow. We're all so friendly here, and it's a great place, Cordelia, to get new information, you know. Great place to get information, meet good people. I mean, it's just a real friendly place, just talking about art, and that combination you can't beat. And there's no question too big, too small. Any question you have, even if it's like, Tim, you know, what side of the airbrush what side of the paintbrush do I use? The hairy side or the non-hairy side? There's no question that is too small or not a good question, you know? Oh, wow. Dave's going to be in Nyack, Massachusetts several times over the next year. I look forward to getting on the East Coast a little. You got to come down to New York so this way we can hang out at the Met. That would be fantastic. I'll give you a full tour. Do you know, Dave, that I actually stayed in Nyack and the Nyack Mall? I stayed at a Travelodge on my honeymoon. I'm no longer married, but that was very interesting because we actually traveled from that motel or hotel, the Travelodge, into Massachusetts. So that's very interesting that you said that particular. And they have a mall there. So we went to the mall several times, and you know, great little place. I just love Massachusetts. I'm really love Massachusetts. I think it's a great place, and lots of Irish people. I'm Irish, so I kind of fit in, you know. And we'll just put this over here. Corina, that is wonderful. And no one gets it right with that spelling, pronounced Corina. You know what? I'm going to start to try and get it right. Please give me a learning curve, but it's important that I get your name, Corina. That's a really nice name, I have to say. It's really nice. I love the way you say it, the way you pronounce it. It's really nice. So I'm going to put it on a post-it note. And Corina. Okay, so now I have it. No excuse, but still I'm gonna mess it up. But I will mess it up several times before I get it right. Steve says Dave Bear Air used to be in Nyack. Spent a bunch of time there. Yeah, it's not in the tick. It's Nyack, right? I know I'm getting that right because we were like, we're staying in the Natick or Natick, and they're like, no, Natick. Yeah, they told me Nyack, so you know, thank you for that. Where were you, Steve, when I needed you? You know, I didn't know you. That was the thing. So very cool. So yeah, it's a small world, isn't it? Right? And Dave says he would be interested in sites to see while in the area. Yeah. Someone just asked me, the Boston Museum of Fine Arts is fantastic. The Fog Art Museum in Harvard University has a lot of great paintings. A great Pre-Raphaelite collection. You know, there's several of the amazing painter Dante Gabriel Rossetti, William Holman Hunt, you know. Chris Garcia, how are you, my friend? Great to see you. Hailing out of New York City, lives in New York State. Great to see you, fellow New Yorker. So cool. So Dave says that's how I thought it was pronounced, Natick. So it is Natick. They said Nyack. So they were probably messing with us, you know. That's probably what they were doing. Okay, so let's see. We're going to start painting. I'm going to... Let me move me away here. We don't need to see me anymore. Let's see. Put me right here. And make me small. Okay, that's good. So now we can see. Now I'm going to... I need to see more of this here. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. Let's see. That should work. Yes, see, now I see more of her dress, and that's what we're going to be working on. So that's good. All right, so very cool. And Colette says, Karina, you're going to love it. Thank you. That's so great. See, everyone's so super friendly here. It's so great. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on her dress a little bit. And I still have the detail mixture. And you know, when you first start out, when you first test out your airbrush, you definitely don't want to do it on your artwork. That's a really good lesson, because if you don't learn it from me, you're going to learn it on your own. So best learn it from me, because when you do that first couple of sprays, and it's really sad when it just destroys your artwork. So let me get this piece of paper here. Let's see. So I always like cutting little scraps like this, and that will be my test paper, right? So that's important. JC, how's it going? All the way from the Atlanta area. Great to see you, sir. How are you? So this is our detail mixture, half and half, you know? And so cool. So Karina says she's looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting to know you, and you getting to know everybody. That's exciting. So now I have my, if you don't have the program Pure Ref, I really super highly recommend Pure Ref. It's so fantastic. If you haven't used it, it's really great because you can have it on your screen, and you don't have to, and it will always be on top. So when you hit other programs, it won't go in the back, which is good. Dave says, always start your air off the project. A lesson he continues to learn. So true. And once in a while, I make that same mistake, Dave, you know. And JC says, hello to Patty, Dwayne, Dan, Colette. It's good, Tim. So doing okay, you know. Holding our own one day at a time. You know, keeping God part of the equation. It's so important. And so even though we're still light, we're just going to kind of just work on, we'll work on one area here. So like right here, this sleeve kind of has this shadow here, and there's hard edges on both sides. So perpendicular and not parallel. That's always important. And Steve says, you got it, Dave. It's a straight shot right downtown Boston. There is plenty to do and see. You know, it wasn't a straight time because this was in 2001, and it was during that big dig thing. And oh my goodness, that was not easy during that time. But I hear now it's a lot easier to get around, right? Where they have tunnels and whatnot. So that's good. So very cool. And okay, so see, the great thing about the Extreme Patriot Arrow, which I do sell, is that it has this pack valve, precision air control. I keep my airbrush at 25 psi. 25, set it and forget it. For me and my intents and purposes, that's good enough. I never need more than that. But I can always bring it down lower with this pack valve, and it it doesn't lower the air pressure, it lowers the amount of air going through. All intents and purposes, that's what it does. So it's like lowering your air pressure, even though it's still 25 coming out of the compressor itself, you know. And so right now I'm going to work on this particular area here. And so I'm going to actually concentrate on this area of the folds, because if I keep moving around, I'm not going to see the, so sometimes you want to see the trees, right? At first you want to see the forest, but sometimes you want to see the trees. Okay, and just going to come over here, and I'm just going to concentrate. And you want to have a focus, right? And then right here we have this little triangle, and then this light area coming here. And I'm going to come back in with the white. You know, we don't need to see me, so let me turn that off, and that's probably a good thing. And let's see, everyone's welcome, Corina, so that's amazing. And Patty says she dropped the cover of her airbrush down the vent, but still works well. Just need to remember, don't spill. Oh, you mean this part right here? Yes. And so that's, you got to be careful, right? But you can get them at usaairsupply.com. And if you use the code TimothyPSA, it'll give you 15% off. So that should take care of your shipping. Use that at checkout at usaairsupply.com, and they do sell this little cap there. So Chris says, not bad, JC, just trying to get some things together to meet up with some of the crew this weekend. Oh, that's great. Dave says he will probably fly into Boston. We'll see what I can do legally to visit the places in Boston while there. His wife and have a layover in Boston, so we got to Presidential Museum and walk some. That is so cool. That is amazing. Stephen Leahy says that he probably has more airbrush parts on the floor than on airbrushes. Yes, it does happen to the best of us. And let's zoom out a little bit, and maybe you can darken it a little bit. There we go. And let's make it a little straighter. Okay. And so it's just kind of working on these folds, staying in this area here. And when we stay in one area, we can actually go ahead and start to have some points of departure, so we can kind of build out from there. And then as you see, we can create that realism there. And Colette says, Steve, when the parts hit the floor, it's like the Bermuda Triangle. Michael says, yeah, Patty, I don't think they make a Tupperware lid to fit the airbrush. I wish they did. Now, if you did have one of those 3D printers, that would be great, you know. And Chris says, Dead Man's Curve this weekend in New Jersey, hanging with the artist there, Ed Rohn, son. Wow, that's cool. Javier Soto. Wow, that's a cool meetup. Very interesting. I know that Javier was by the bridge. I think he was in Fort Lee last I heard. So that is a cool meetup. Very cool. Steve says Dave used to go to apple picking at Natick at Lookout Farms. Real pretty area west of the city. So cool. And so yeah, some great conversation going on. And so continue with the. There's no topic as long as it's PG-13. It's fine. It doesn't have to be just about this painting. It could be about anything. This is just hanging out and just talking about anything. It doesn't matter. So I want this fold to come. So what I'm going to do is I'm going always cover what you don't want to spray, and this way, and whatever you do want to spray, you want to have covered. And so that is very interesting. Yeah, so Javier Soto is a very cool guy. I've had the pleasure of speaking to him online a few times. Never met him in person though. Never had the pleasure. So I'm just going to stick in this one area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my white mixture. And I'm going to mix it because, just, pulling out a bottle of my mixture isn't really teaching you all how I do this, right? So I'm going to shake this really up. This is Drew Blair's 50/50 Illustration White by Createx. This is the only paint that when you put it down, it won't trap your pencil lines. The only white paint. So that's why I use it. I tried everything. This is the winner. Coquito. Yes, Coquito. Por supuesto que sí. Coquito, arroz con pollo, pollo guisado, empanadas. You name it. You know. I've been around Boricuas most of my life. Amazing people. Amazing, amazing people. Salsa, old school salsa. We're not talking about the salsa you eat. So that's cool. And so I know mole. I think I was a Latino in a past life. Okay, so now we're gonna get this, and JC knows what I'm talking about. El sabor, no? Okay, so now we're gonna get our test paper, right? So Drew Blair is definitely a genius when it comes to how to maintain the airbrush. And so I took his advice and have never been happier. Just knowing that it's going to work. What you talking about, Tim? It's in your blood. You're invited to the carne asada. All right. Muchísimas gracias, señor. Yo soy Latino. I tell you, I just admire your culture very much, really do. So now we're here, and I'm going to come in with the white mixture, and I'm kind of breaking my old rules. So if you're working with the detail mixture, you can still work with the light mixture and have very little blue shift, right? And it's very manageable. Mr. John Diekman from Wisconsin, how are you, sir? It's been a while. I know you've been working a lot. How have you been? Are you still in Wisconsin? So I'm so glad to see you. And tell me how work is going, because I know you were doing a lot of hours and they were short-handed there. Hopefully things have gotten easier. And see how I'm starting to build up some of the lights in these folds. But the thing is, you don't want to build it up too fast, right? You want to be really slow about it. Right here, I'm going to build up some of this white on this edge here. But I have to be slow to do that. And that's going to help us to, you know, get that feeling of... Now, the beauty of this opaque 50-50 illustration white, it becomes opaque when you do several layers. It actually will hide your pencil lines, which is really good. So where did this technique come from, right? You know, this technique that I'm doing, it's very different. You know, when I started it, nobody was doing it like this. Well, I used to draw a lot, you know, and because I would draw on the way to work, because I worked at Amazon's corporate offices, and I had to take a train, had to take a train, and then the light rail to my job, to my building. And so it would take approximately like an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes each way, and I would take that time to draw. And I would do the same thing, but I would use graphite on tinted paper, and I would use white pastel for the highlights. When that job was no longer there, I was in my studio and I was playing with the airbrush, and I was like, why don't I do that and do it with, and it actually worked out. So that's where that was born from. So it was born from my drawing technique, you know. And Tone says he's in Brooklyn, and let's see. Steve says, Dave, there is the Audubon Preserve, the state park, and there are camera-worthy. Concord is north there, which is cool, revolutionary. Oh, wow, great information. Thanks, Steve, sharing that with Mr. Dave. That's going to make his trip even richer. Yes, definitely. That's a native right there. So if you're going to get any information about Boston, Steve Leahy is definitely the way to go. Patty, have a great night. I'm so glad you're here. And don't work too hard. And make sure you have a wonderful weekend, okay? I'm so glad to see you. And so night, Patty, from Illinois, which is great. So Patty does these amazing miniatures. Oh, she's so good. And then during the holidays, she does ornaments. So keep her in mind about ornaments during the holidays. She's just incredible. So that is fantastic. So everyone is just so talented here, Corina, you know. So you see, I'm kind of working back and forth on this sleeve. I'm not going to spend a whole day working on the sleeves, but I want to show you all the back and forth that I like to do with this. And pretty much stay in one area. If I move around too much, I could get confused, right? And start seeing, you know, getting overwhelmed with everything. So I'm just going to stick in this area, this quadrant here, which is the most important because it's what's closest to us, right? So and how's the sound quality? Sound quality is good, everybody. Colette says, JC, Georgia is a gorgeous state. The mountains are unreal. The heat, ugh. Yeah, we had over, I think we had over 100 today. At least it was supposed to be here in New Jersey. I think this is the last hurrah for the heat, hopefully. September's coming. How about that? That's exciting. And you see how I'm developing this here. I'll zoom in a little bit for us. There we go. And we're just developing these folds. Now, I like doing something called the 1 second rule. So you look for a second before you paint for a second. And that's just a ratio thing. So if I'm going to paint for 2 seconds, I want to make sure that I'm looking for 2 seconds, right? And, oh, that's right, no snow. That's, you, I think they get like 2 inches every now and then. But really, nothing like Wisconsin, right? And what's great about this with this illustration white, diluted 50-50 with water, is that I can build on it, right? So you never want to ever, try and it's like trying to get a sunburn at one shot, right? You don't want to get a sunburn at one shot because then you burn your epidermis. So you want to go to the beach several times for small periods. Same thing, you want to hit your white, let it dry, hit it again, and that's how you build it up. Mr. Michael, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your friendship and sharing your amazing painting with me, working on different surfaces. I'm learning so much watching your live streams. Now, everyone, a quick shout out to Michael, and I should have done this earlier, is that he's trying to get to 100 subscribers so he can use the software on the computer to do his live streams. Have you hit the 100 mark yet? I hope you did. If you haven't, if you can just write in the tag name of your YouTube channel, so everyone, if you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe so he can hit that 100 threshold. So that is great. Thank you so much for your friendship and support, sir. You are amazing, and thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate you. And let's see. John Diekman says Alaska is actually warmer than Wisconsin in the winter. Oh my God, that's scary. Tone says he's going to catch up with you next time, Tim. Oh wow, so you have to make a move. Definitely. So that means you're leaving for the evening. If you are, I hope you have a great night, sir. Tone, thank you for taking your time to hang out with us. I love your work and what you're doing. Always a pleasure, and it really warms my heart that you're airbrushing again, because that's what you're meant to do, and that's what we have to do. We have to cultivate our gifting, right, Tone? And if we can do that, then we're making God happy, and we're making other people happy. Your work inspires me. The painting you did of Bruce Springsteen is just out of this world. Oh my God, Mr. Chris Garcia, thank you so much for the super chat, sir. I really appreciate that. Chris and I go back a while now. I mean, it's been years. We know each other, and I had the pleasure of meeting him in person, and he is even nicer in person than he is online. So Chris, thank you so much for hanging out. I know Wednesday, you have a lot going on. So thank you for spending time with us, and your knowledge and your friendship and your support. It means the world to me. And thanks, Chris. And Chris, thank you for what you do, your job and everything. And Chris does these like amazing skateboard decks, and it's just amazing what you do, Chris, with I would love to learn from you one day how you use the clear coats. Is just incredible. You're amazing, and you're inspiring me. So thank you, everybody, for your support today and hanging out. I mean, it's just amazing. So one of the things I just did is, when you have a 2 airbrush system like I do, I have the Extreme Patriot 105 and the Extreme Patriot Arrow, both customized by myself. But I picked up this one, and I thought it was that. So always make sure that you pick up the right airbrush when you're doing a 2 airbrush system like mine, And John says it puts hair on the chest, Steve. Steve says, John, Marge tells stories of Wisconsin winters, and he'll pass after dealing with New England. Oh, man. And so Michael says, it's not 100, it's 50. And I need 2 more. Oh, wow. Oh, so 2 more. So here it is. I'm going to cut and paste it, and I'm going to actually, let's see. Here we go. So you see it right there. So I'm going to do Michael McClung, one word, and then a space, 5367. I'm going to pin this comment, okay? So Michael McClung, And there you go. And let me see if I can pin the comment. There it is. So this message is going to be on top for everyone to see. So when you see that, those who are coming in on live stream, but if you are watching it in record, which about 4,000 people do, just go ahead and subscribe. So I'm believing not we're going to get to 50. I'm believing we're going to get to 100. So let's work on 100. Let's exceed our expectations, Mike, because more people need to see your stuff. And Chris says, thank you for the very kind words, but it's you and Steve that keep us going. Oh, no, it doesn't work without you guys. And Dave Gregory says, 5357, did I blow it? Let's see. Oh, 5369. Let's see. What did I say? 5369. And, oh, wow, where did I come up with? Oh. Oh, so, and what did Mike McClung say to me? He said, oh man, where is my mind? Okay, so we're going to unpin that comment. Never mind, let's unpin that. And then I'm going to put that in here. That's pretty funny. So let's see. So it's Michael McClung, and that's space 5357. Thank you so much for that. Okay, and so Michael McClung 5357. I'm going to do that, and let's pin that, and there we go. Now I'll pin this. Okay, so those who are watching this after the recording, it's the second one I pinned right now that you go ahead and go in there. So that's great. And yeah, hitting that coquito off camera, that's so fun. You know, if I was in junior high school, I would have something to say about the number I picked. But we're not in junior high school. I am going to go ahead and you know, air to the more sophisticated approach. And so JC says, good night everyone, great feed. Mr. JC, thanks so much, my friend, great to see you. I hope you're having a great rest of the week. Enjoy your weekend. And Steve, when is your YouTube live stream gonna be, Steve? You might have posted it, but I didn't see it. And Dave says, got you thinking about St. Louis. Well, I was engaged to a girl in St. Louis, so, you know, kind of starts to go in the right direction. Maybe it is St. Louis. That's causing me let's see. Okay, everything's cool. Take care, Mr. JC. So I'm coming back with my darker color. So now I have the white, and also with this darker color, I'm starting to get a little bit of that delineation, perpendicular and not parallel. So when you're doing this, you do perpendicular because you have more control of where you spray. When you're spraying parallel, you're going to have an overspray in that direction, and you also it will be a lot higher. Oh, 5357. I hope I got it correct. Let's see. I did get it right. So like anything else, like remembering names and everything, but I do remember Corina, and I got that right here, so it's helping me with my phonetic pronunciation, which is good. And oh, still not sure, still working on it, leaning towards the weekends. Cool. Okay, sounds good. No rush, but a lot of people are anxious because they love your YouTube feeds, which I do as well. Guilty. I love Steve's YouTube streams. Really loving it. Learned so much from Steve Leahy's live streams. It's just unbelievable. It's like art school, you know? I mean, it really is great. And we know we're just so thankful that Steve takes the time to share his technique with us and inspire and answer questions, you know. I mean, it's just so great. And there might be a little bit of an overspray here, but that's okay. And you still can see the line drawing that's underneath, which is really good, you know? And so let's see, we have AD Airbrush Dungeon. How's it going? Great to see you. Now, Airbrush Dungeon, I know you were from an interesting place. Uh, I know it's international. So, are you in Canada? I'm thinking Canada. Let me see if I get that right. If not Canada, then I'm thinking UK, but I'm thinking Canada, and I might be totally wrong. So let's see if we have you there. So great to see you. I remember you from last week, Airbrush Dungeon. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, and just thank you so much for spending time on the. Oh, Pennsylvania! Wow, I'm way off. But were you near Pittsburgh? I know I'm wrong. So, but I'm gonna guess Pittsburgh. So Airbrush Dungeon is in PA. Because we do have Gary, part of the community, comes by every now and then, and he's from. Gary is from the Hershey area, which is cool. Uh, so cool. And thanks, Colette. Colette says, don't forget to hit the like button. I appreciate yous. I appreciate yous being here and the support. You guys are all, guys and girls are all so fantastic. So that's basically it. And you can see how I start. And I'm going to come back in with the white and show you that I'm kind of breaking rules where you really shouldn't put white on top of. But that's the beauty of the detail mixture that's diluted. It's so light, and it doesn't really react the way, let's say, acrylic paint does, which is fantastic. So you have a lot of wiggle room, and that's fantastic. Oh, so just out of Scranton. Hey, The Office, right? So I love The Office, and The Office made Scranton pretty famous. And do you guys in Airbrush Dungeon, you guys in the Scranton area, you know, reference that, or you get annoyed with people like me who reference The Office because of the show? I'd love to hear that. I know they have a really good college in Scranton, don't they? Uh, I remember, if I recall, there's a good university there. And now I'm going to kind of move over to this area, kind of bring this white down. Wow, Colette, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship. Colette has been a student of mine for quite some time in the mentorship program. She's doing great. It's just so great to work with you and the friendship that we built from that. And it's just amazing to see you grow, Colette. And when you spend time here on the Wednesday nights, it really is wonderful. And so thank you so much for that, and thank you for the super chat and the support. That's like, you know, just so amazing. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. And you know, it's always great to see you. Colette is originally from Wisconsin. I think you're originally from Wisconsin. You lived a while in Chicago, and now you're in Atlanta. So that's really cool. So you have a lot of really good life experience living in those different areas. So thank you for that. So Airbrush Dungeon says actually about 40 minutes south, which is really cool. 40 minutes south of Scranton, and born and raised in Chicago. Go. So are you a South Sider or a North Sider? Go Cubs or go White Sox? I know that's a big rivalry there, sort of like the Mets and the Yankees in New York. But right, the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox fans get along really nicely, don't they, Steve? Right? Wink, wink. You know, you guys love the Yankees, I heard, right? I heard you guys are just buddies. Cubbies. Okay, great. That's the South Side, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, so the Cubs used to be in the same division as the Mets, and we used to play them a lot. And some great teams, some terrible teams in the 70s, but when they have a great team, it's just, you know, they're so exciting. Chris says Boston has a team. Oh no. Oh no. So north side. Oh, so cool. So coming back with the white mixture and building that up. So right here I'm going to do something. I'm going to put the magnets close to the edge, and I'm going to kind of make the edge of this dress or this cloak or nightshirt, I'm not sure what it is. We're just going to make that more delineated. And then we're going to lift it up and see how the work we did, how we did today so far. And you can see how that's coming out, you know, I mean, little by little. Rome's not built in a day, so we have to build that up, right? And so it takes time, but as long as we're doing the large shapes, that's what's important, you know. And Michael says, Colette, he was born in Ohio, raised in Maryland. Oh, so cool. And so have you lived near Baltimore during a certain time? Now Roy is part of our community, and he's also one of my students. And he is he's from Maryland. I think he's in from the Baltimore area. Now he's living in Jersey. Steve says, wait till you see next week's 543 time lapse. Uh-oh. Oh man. Boston has to represent, huh? That's going to be good. Looking forward to that. That's going to be good. Okay, so we're going to just kind of, I don't want it to be, you know, this is a painting about folds. I want to kind of move around. So I have my white mixture, and I'm going to intensify some of the anatomical features, right? So I'm going to take my white mixture. And remember, we don't have to worry about blue shift. And this is, it's really cool because this is sort of an addendum to the old technique. And so, which I like. You know, it's always growing, and I'm always pushing it. So when you push your technique and your materials, you might make some really interesting discoveries. And I discovered that I can really push I can actually go ahead and push the whole thing about blue shift, right? I can kind of break the rules. As long as I go with that detail mixture that's diluted, I can come back and really kind of work it together. And so Colette says, what could go wrong? And Steve said, and Chris says, the time lapse of Yankee Stadium. Oh no. Uh-oh, it's getting real up in here. So right here, this sternocleidomastoid, I'm going to lower that air pressure because I don't want to put too much down. So I'm just, right here we have the sternocleidomastoid on both sides, and we're just going to articulate that a little bit more. And there's more light right here where her sternum is. And we're just going to build that up slowly, and we're going to compress those values, meaning the edge work. The edges are not so delineated. It's much more soft and smooth, right? There are value changes, but they change very slowly because this is a broad area on her chest. So it's going to go from light to dark very, very slowly. So your values are going to be compressed. You're going to hear that a lot from me lately. I've been studying, going deeper dive into the academic tradition, the 19th century French academic tradition of painting. And you're going to hear me talk about compression of values and compression when we're working in color, compression of hues. And it's not so much of what you're seeing, it's about getting an effect. And it's not so much an effect of getting realism, but an effect of getting classical realism. The work of, let's say, William Bouguereau, or someone like Jules Joseph Lefay, Dante Gabriel, no, not so much Rossetti, but definitely, Ingres, Jacques-Louis David, that real French 19th century slickness, which I do love. And let me go into her face a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of accentuate this zygomatic bone. So this zygomatic bone is the cheekbone, right? And that's pronounced. But you have to make sure you build up that light slowly, otherwise it's going to look like it's jutting out, right? This is a slow turn from light to dark. So if it's a slow turn, that means our value shift have to be very close to one another. If they're not close to one another, it's going to look too rough, and it's not going to have that classical realism which we're looking for, And let's see. Steve says, remember that team the Yankees played in 2004 playoffs? Uh-oh. And Michael says, always been about 30 miles away from Baltimore, which is cool. So you're able to go and check out. I remember a friend in college was a marine biology major, and he always remarked on how wonderful the Boston Aquarium was, like one of the best in the world. Is that true in your estimation, Mr. Michael? Right here on her eyebrows. And that was a little bit of a blowout, so I'm not sure what happened there, but that happens to the best of us. But it's nothing we can't handle. We let it dry. Whenever you have a mistake, the best thing to do is to just say, okay, it's a mistake. I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to, there's no rush, right? There's no rush to fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue working around it. And a lot of times when you work around it and you fix the values around it, you might realize that you never had to fix it, that it kind of fell in line anyway, right? So that's what I find. Okay, we're going to leave that there, and we're going to work on the malar fat right here at the side of the upper lateral cartilage of the nose. We're going to do same here. Right above the mouth, that's the ubicularis oris. The further I'm away, the lighter the spray. That's one of my Timisms, right? The further away, the lighter the spray. Oh, thank you. Colette says she looks beautiful. That's wonderful. I appreciate the encouragement. Thank you so much. And so let's see. Michael says he's always been a Baltimore Oriole fan. Great team, great organization. Love the Orioles. Great players wore that Orioles orange and black uniforms. Just very slowly. Further away lighter the spray, the less I'm committed to the spray, right? So you might not be committed to the spray, so if you're further away, you can ease into it. The closer I was, you can see the danger of that. But like I said, let that dry, and while that's drying, think of the best solution to what happened. And you see how we're building this up slowly, and we're getting a classical beauty from this. And I'm about 5 inches away, right? So, and then right here, we have the mandible. The mandible's jutting out. There's a space between the zygomatic bone and the mandible, and that's what causes this indentation here, which a lot of people say it's the cheekbone, but it really isn't. That's caused by the space in between the mandible and the zygomatic bone. And the mandible is your jawbone. But notice I'm not getting blue shift, right? Notice that. Very important consideration. And let's see. Steve says, at our age, I don't remember what he did yesterday, let alone 2004. So you guys are funny. So it's a little warm in the studio because it's 80 degrees right now and it's 10:30. So bear with me. It's a little bit stuffy here. I'm going to work on the neck, and I'm just going to kind of lighten things up, and then I'm going to come back in with that detail mixture. So the whole idea of this technique is to slowly build up those values and work on skin texture, much like the way a watercolor painter would work, you know, and I was trained in watercolor as well. Actually, I was classically trained in watercolor, classically trained in pen and ink, acrylic, you know, pastel, oils, you name it. So, and you know, I do recommend trying all different mediums because it will help you. It will help you to kind of see solutions from other mediums, which isn't the classical approach, which is very good, you know. And let's say Steve says, all right, kids, I'm out of here. You'll be good. At least don't get caught. Take care, Steve. Always great to hear from you. Looking forward to the news on your YouTube live stream. So I'm looking forward to that, my friend. And thanks for hanging out on a Wednesday. I really appreciate you and all you do for the airbrush community. And check out Steve Leahy's live streams on Monday on Facebook at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. He does some really incredible things, so highly recommend that. And so that's cool. So I really appreciate you so much. So now let's go ahead and work on her forehead. But because over here I did get a little overspray on the hair. Well, that's going to be, if you work dark, you're not going to come in with the white mixture. You're just not. But okay, so I'm actually going to take this, my mono eraser. It's the mono, I think it's the 1.0. And I'm just going to very lightly kind of lighten what I did with that white mixture. And I can come back in with the white, but you can see that I let it dry, and I was the Drew Blair and Createx 50/50 illustration white. I was able to manipulate that. If it was white ink, I would not have such a good job, a good time at it, I should say. And what's really fantastic is that I have gray underneath, right? So when I use an eraser, it's not going to pull out white. What it's going to do is going to reveal the gray. So it's a different way to work. Hey Phil, how's it going? Great to see you, sir. How is everything? I am so glad you're here, sir. And did you try that split cam program? It's really fantastic. Oh, thank you. Philip says it's looking good. I appreciate that so much, sir. And always appreciate you. And Philip, I am going to ask you, because I know I found out last week, where are you from? I don't remember, and that happens, you know. But love to know how important everyone is. So love to know where everybody is from. And I'm going to be looking for her hair only stencil. And I'm going through that now, and I did find it because I don't want to have to paint the hair again. So if I put this on here, then I could really kind of reinforce the contours of the face, which is a lot of fun. It's a great technique. Here we go. So when we're working on this, we want to make sure we get the contours right. If that's off, then you know, then we have a lot of work to fix it. Nothing in Airbrush you can't fix, but doesn't mean that you want to go through all that trouble. So right here we have the mandible, the jawbone, and so we're going to put that right on the edge, and I think that's like right on the money as far as getting that contour. So now when I come in with working on our zygomatic bone here, and again you see I actually went ahead and went with my detail mixture, so good thing I stopped myself. So when you have the two airbrush system, always make sure you picked up the right airbrush, you know. I'm going to take a sip of, I got this stuff right here. It's called, whoops, it's wet, it'll drip on it, but it's Polar half and half. It's like natural grapefruit and lemon flavored soda. It's a sparkling beverage. It's really good. Chris says, Tim, at the stage you are at, if someone wanted to add color to this piece, would it be possible? Not only would it be possible, Chris, that's a great question, but that's how I use my technique in oil painting, in pastel. I mean, I basically go here and then what I'll do, if it's on paper, I'll put shellac over it. So this way it'll accept oil. So the paper will accept oil paint. Even when I go ahead and do my Createx, when I work in Createx at this point, I will shellac it, and then the Createx will take the will take the shellac, and it'll work really well. And the reason why is because then I could varnish or clear coat it, because it's sealed in the shellac, which is fantastic, you know. And Philip says he's in Central California. He hasn't tried cameras yet, but needs to plan something out. It's just a matter of time. Let me know, and I'll be glad to coach you through the whole thing. Any kind of problems and anything, that's fantastic. And Dave says he will be in Roseville next week. Now, is that near Pleasanton or Pleasantville? I had a show there once, and I believe that was in Central California. Pleasant something. And Dwayne says we call that Northern California here. Oh, wow. That's very cool. So we have California in the house with Philip, which is great. And we have Pennsylvania with Airbrush Dragon. So cool. Okay, so always going to test right here. And so now what I want to do is I want to work on the skull, right? And the skull is interesting. So when you're looking at, let's say, the skull or something like that, you might see the skull as, very uneventful, not much going on. But it's always good to look at our anatomical forms, right? It always helps. And let me go down here and see if I could find that. I may have to bring in that particular image. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you all with this. Let's see. So we'll go to image, and oh, here we go. So if we look at this skull illustration here, we can see that there's these ridges above the eye socket, both eye sockets, and we also see that there is these frontal eminences, right? These are the upper orbital eminences, and eminence is just like a protrusion. So there's two on top of both of the eye sockets, and there is two on the top of the forehead, and that's called the frontal eminence, and that of course is on the frontal bone, so that makes sense. Alright, so now that we have that, and let's make this small, and so I'm going to show you how important something like this is when we are working on our image here. So we got this here, and we'll zoom out and we'll zoom in, and then we'll zoom in here and kind of put that there. Okay, so now let me make this a little bit lighter. It's all about you guys and making sure you all can see everything. Oh, Airbrush Dungeon grew up in San Francisco. Amazing city. I love that city. Just incredible. So I'm going to work on first, I'm going to work on the frontal eminences. And that are these circular bumps on the top part of her forehead. And I have to make sure that I stay about 4 inches away. If I'm too close, it's going to be blotchy and you're going to get something you don't want. So stay further away, and you want to build that up super slowly. So I'm about 5 inches away, and I'm just worrying about those eminences. And they come down a little bit lower. And I'm just building up that eminence right there. And on the light side, it's going to be a little more pronounced. And you see, we worried about our frontal eminences. Now we got to worry about the supraorbital eminences, right? I'm going to lower my air pressure. And I'm going to right above the eyebrows. Just like in our anatomical image here, right? You see those eminences on the top of the eye socket. So let's make that happen. We'll come here, and we'll start on the shadow side. See how that's starting to come out a little bit? That's her anatomy. So it's just like when you're playing punch buggy, right? When you're with your brother or sister when you're kids and you're on the highway looking for a Volkswagen and you see them all over. Same thing with anatomy. When you know it's there and you're looking for it, you're going to find it. So what's the importance of doing something like this? The importance is your work's going to have a much more anatomical realism, and you're going to really know the structure of what you're painting. That's going to make a real big difference, because someone could be a photorealism, but if they don't have a realistic painter, if they don't have that understanding, remember, the more you know about something, the more you have something to say about it, right? So the same thing, it's very important. And Michael says, Tim, you mix your India ink with water 50-50. Correct. And that is the detail mix, right? So when I start going darker, I'll go straight detail. And then when I start going dark from that, I'll go detail, the light mixture diluted, and then just keep doing that. And that builds everything up. So, but sometimes I may skip and go over, which is good too. So I have the white mixture, and I'm working on the supraorbital eminences. And you see how we have, and then right here is the glabella. And the glabella you really don't see in the front, but let me show you the glabella from the side, okay? It's not an attempt, it's not a form, it's just a feature. Sometimes anatomical features are talked about, and are good landmarks. So I'm going to go to image, and I'm going to show you exactly what the glabella is. If we didn't have a glabella, we would look like, we would definitely look like parrots, right? So here is this anatomical form. I'm going to make this big. So you see, you have the eye socket, and then right next to the eye socket, you have the frontal bone, and then it goes in. See how it goes in just before the bridge of the nose, that indentation? That's called the glabella. So that's very important to see. You can see it really clearly when you are looking at a 3/4 view, or you're looking at a side view, but you don't see it from the front. But what you do see with the glabella is that it's in shadow. So, and if it's not, and if it is in shadow, then you're going to have a light coming from it. So that's a glabella. That's that little space. We don't want to make it too dark, but it is much lighter as the nasal bone, left and right nasal bone, comes out of that glabella, right? And we want to make sure that we put that in. So what's interesting, when you put in these, you'll have like a little cross on the forehead, and it's basically the shapes around the supraorbital eminences and the frontal eminences, and then in between you'll have this little cross here, and then right here is you'll have that indentation of the glabella, and out of the glabella comes the nasal bones, the right and left nasal bones. And just see how you can build that up. So yes, you know, you're still using your powers of observation. That doesn't go away. But to have that added knowledge is really helping you, really getting you to that next level. And so that's important. And so Airbrush Dungeon says his siblings and most of my family and cousins are still in the Bay Area. Very cool. And Dwayne says he has a lot of friends in the East Bay Area, goes there a lot. That's so cool. And he has family in Hayward. Now Hayward, if I'm not mistaken, is that where the redwood trees are, or I'm probably totally off. But I went to the fort that's there's an old Spanish fort that's actually on the left side, on the San Francisco side of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I love that. That was a great tour. I really enjoyed that a lot. What I'm going to do is condense these forms, you know, make sure that the values are not too harsh, and kind of soften up and compress those value changes. See how I fixed that? It was a problem no more. But the thing is, I didn't get nervous about it and try and fix it. I knew I had time. There's a lightness between the scalp, on the scalp, between the part of her hair. And I'm just going to dust that. Not too bad. And okay, so now we can actually reinforce our shape here. But I'm really happy with getting those supraorbital eminences, the frontal eminences, and really make that, you know, it's not just like a metal plate. There's a lot more going on in the frontal bone, which is this forehead. It's called the frontal bone. And there are muscles there, you know, the frontalis, the procerus, and we'll go over that in a, you know, we don't see that much in this particular picture. It's not very, how do I say, it's not very detailed in that respect. We still have the ability to come in with the white pastel, which is our secret weapon, and that comes in at the end, and when you see it, it's just going to be so beautiful, and it's like all a setup for that. So now I have still my detail mixture, and now I can kind of work on some of these shadow planes here. We put in the white, now we can reinforce the... So here's something interesting I learned today. With our eyebrows, in the center we have a lot more hair, and as you get less hair as you go towards the ends of your eyebrows, when you're painting them, the eyebrows are going to have more color of the skin than the eyebrows towards the center, because they're thinner and the skin's showing up. So I thought I'd share that. That's really cool. And Michael says, good, I'm glad you answered the question, because he's going to do the Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry picture in the India ink as a starter. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the only way to fly. I think if you're doing an underpainting in airbrush, when you start doing the underpaintings in India ink, it's so much better. Just a quick rundown as I'm working. When you work in the India ink, you never trap in your pencil lines. It's impossible. So that means that, you can have as much pencil lines as you want, and the India ink does not trap the pencil lines. So you can get rid of those pencil lines. So that's an advantage. Also, nothing is more transparent and nothing goes through the airbrush better than India ink. When I learned, I made these India inks and I worked in the India ink almost exclusively for, I would say, about 3 years. I learned what the airbrush wants with viscosity. The airbrush is very specific at what it wants and what it likes to go through the airbrush, right? So by using the airbrush India inks, I learned how to use the Createx much better, both the Wicked and everything, because it doesn't change whether you're working with anything, whether it's Createx, Golden, India ink. Your airbrush wants a certain viscosity. It wants a certain air pressure, and that's it. And that's going to be what it likes. Now, you may go ahead and force it with higher PSI or something like that, but it likes to have this consistency. This is the consistency that it likes. It was originally made for dyes and inks in the first place. So that's really important. Hey there, Mr. Patrick. How's it going, sir? All the way from Massachusetts. So glad you're here. And you're from Stockbridge right now. Is that correct? In the Stockbridge area? So that is fantastic. And so Haywood is on the Oakland side of the bay. Very cool. Thanks for that, Airbrush Dungeon. I appreciate that. So great to see. Me and Patrick are working on the Dragon Queen together. He's in my mentorship program. We are working on the Daenerys, right? The Queen Daenerys from what's the show? I can't believe it. Crown of something of Crowns, Game of Thrones. There you go, Game of Thrones. So we're having a lot of fun with that. It's a challenge, but we're having a lot of fun nonetheless. It's always a challenge when we work on an image that is, definitely different than others. But like me, Mr. Patrick loves challenges. And we may have gone a little bit too wide on her mouth, but I'm going with it. I kind of like that. And we're just going to develop her bottom lip a little bit here. And you can see we're moving around a lot, like right here. I may work on, the wing of the nostril a little bit better. Then we have the alar cartilage that shoots in and then goes up. So you see we have that little bit of this round ball. That's called the alar cartilage, and alar in Latin means wing. So it has like a wing shape, which is really, really interesting. But once you know the different parts of the nose, it becomes a lot less of a mystery and a lot easier to portray. And so we're going to kind of delineate and shape out this lip a little bit better, upper lip, and compress these values a little bit more. And then we have the mentalis here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And if I want to go lighter, I just increase my distance, and that's so important. And Karina says he has to go. Take care, Karina. It's wonderful to see you from Australia. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions, just leave a comment here in one of the videos and I'll get back to you. And I hope to see you soon, and take care of yourself. And it's just a real pleasure, Karina. And I've been doing good with the pronunciation, haven't I? And I'm a work in progress. And earlier when I went in with the white mixture, I did leave a little bit of kind of a halo here, so I'm just going to darken this. It's kind of soft edge, so I'm not worried about a little bit of fuzziness here. So it works to my advantage, which is good. And so very cool. So thank you everyone so far for hanging out. It's always fantastic to see everyone. And you know, especially on a Wednesday, I know everyone has a lot going on. It's the middle of the week, so I don't take it lightly, you all spending time to hang out with me. I am totally honored, and hopefully I can inspire just a little bit. That's my goal. If I can inspire and get you guys and girls to take out that airbrush and just go for it, right? Just log in those hours, you know, like someone learning how to fly a plane, right? It's all about the hours. And the same thing, you know, when it comes to airbrush, it's all about logging in those hours. So think about that. You know, we have to log in those hours. So if I can inspire you to get some hours under your belt and maybe direct you, help you out with some shortcuts, not having to deal with some of the trials that I have dealt with, then that's all gravy, right? It's all great. And so right here we're gonna kind of work on this area of the bicularis oculi, which is a round muscle going around each eye, and we have the bicularis oris, which is a round muscle going around the mouth. So I'm going to take in consideration both of them, and I'm going to darken her eyebrow here more in the center, and as it goes towards the corner of her eye, it gets lighter because there's less hair in the eyebrow as we go away from the corner, the inside corner of the eye. Now sometimes women with their makeup and everything, it might be different, but naturally that's what happens. And you see, like when you play chess a lot, you'll see similar openings, like people who, you know, let's say do the English opening or the King's Indian, or you know, different openings. You'll see that over and over again, and you'll be able to respond much quicker because you see people, it's predictable. Same thing when you're painting, right? The more you paint, the more you do portraits, you're going to say, ah, the zygomatic bone, I see it right there. Oh, the glabella, I know the glabella is there. And you'll be able to translate it because you're seeing it a lot faster. You're almost anticipating it. And that's the same thing that's happening. And this is turning, but it's turning very slowly. And that's what I mean about the compression of the values, is that it is turning, but it's so slow. It's such a slow turn from dark to light that it almost is like much more perceivable as a three-dimensional form. But it's just so beautiful because it's so subtle. But you're still seeing the roundness. You're still seeing the roundness of each of these individual forms. Now when I say individual forms, we look at the portrait as one form. She's three-dimensional, right? She walks in. If you were to touch her cheek, it would be part of the three-dimensional form of her face. But on that form is a lot of subforms, a lot of small forms. Oh, Michael says he has to go. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you. I appreciate you saying she looks awesome. Keep painting. I'm loving what you're doing. It's very inspiring, especially working on the different surfaces. and I'm looking forward to Susan Day George, I believe, and I can't wait to see that. And have a great weekend, sir, and I appreciate you. And so those parts should be here very shortly. I did hear from Badger, and so that's a good thing. So this way I'll get that out to you, plus some really wonderful goodies for your patients. So thank you so much for the super chat as well, and the support and friendship, sir. Really appreciate you. Okay, so we're working on this really slow turn, and then we can come back. So here's the beauty, is that with this technique, which a lot of people don't do, is I'm coming back with white and gray. See how I'm just bringing it back, and also making sure that I'm compressing these forms, right? That they're not turning too fast. And when they turn too fast, they look less classical. And that's the whole thing. This is a classical portrait. And to kind of soften things up, I'm going to be about 6 inches away. I'm going to make sure I don't have any tip dry, and because we're dealing with white, right? So tip dry is definitely part of the territory. And so you see, I'll bring in value, I'll take it away, bring it in value until I find that sweet spot. Let that dry, of course, and now we can work on another area here. Let's work on her shoulder here, just ever so lightly. It's going to be about 5 inches away, just very, very soft. And let's come over here. Now right here we are still seeing some of this clavicle here, right? So we kind of lost the clavicle, so I'm just going to use my eraser to get rid of some of the 50-50 illustration. See how I could bring that clavicle back a little bit. But I'm going to make sure that that value is super compressed, meaning that the space between light and dark are very close to one another. There's not many values in between. And you'll see, you know, when we don't compress and we go for too much of a contrast, we have a sense of realism, but it's not that classical realism, what makes a Bouguereau a Bouguereau. And so I'm actually not going to go with the eraser. I'm actually going to go with my diluted detail mixture. I'm going to be about 4 inches away, and I can get really super soft, and my gradations are going to be super close to one another. There's always time to add highlights, right? But when you get this turning of the form, and you're turning those values very slowly, you're going to have a different look. It's going to be really interesting and different. And that's it, you know, and that difference is what they did in the 19th century. So if you're doing a portrait and you show someone something like this, you're going to get a lot more attention. And so that's very important. And it's not the only way to work, you know. I mean, working more of a modern approach is fine too. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way. It's just whatever look you're interested in. So I'm studying this particular look now, and I can share that with you all, which is great. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do some paintbrush techniques, which is always fun, which I am going to get one of these little guys here and my water, and we're going to see if we can do it with the detail mixture. We may have to come with a darker, you know, maybe with the light mixture, but we'll see how we do. And I always like to do a dry brush technique. And let's see. So I get rid of the excess water, and then I just kind of work on the space between her lips and the cast shadow created from the upper lip, casting a shadow onto the lower lip. And so right here you see the lip comes here, and then we have a drop, and then comes the corner of the mouth. So we have to see that drop. That drop is so important, and it has everything to do with her character, her facial character. You know, we miss that. And then the corner of the mouth, where there's a space in the corner of the mouth there. And then we have that same space on this side. And we can delineate that with the brush. And we can also use the brush to kind of put in some of the creases. Now, one of the things is, and you know, and this could happen when you're putting in the creases, how come it's not looking like other artists when they do it? The secret is that the value of the crease has to be so close to the value of the lip itself. If there's too much of a difference, it's going to look terrible. It's going to look like she has tattooed lines on her face. Now I'm going to zoom in and see if I could really illustrate this point for you all. Let's see. So I'm going to zoom in here, come up here. And let's see what I'm missing. And Mr. Cheese Grip says, I'll see you tomorrow, Tim. Yes, tomorrow night at 9, hopefully. And it's always a pleasure, sir. Look forward to seeing you. Take care, Mr. Patrick. You are the best. So glad to see you. And so, you know, I'm so glad everyone comes to see me tonight. I mean, it really is making my week a lot more fun. And a lot more interesting. So we come in here, and then we have our little cast shadow, which is irregular. It's thicker here. See how it's not perfect? It's not symmetrical. And we'll just bring it. Okay, so we were talking about, let me stay on topic. We were talking about the creases in the lip, especially the bottom lip, right? We'll come here. Move this over here and see if I can focus. Okay, so we have these creases in the lower lip. Now the reason why these creases are working is that the value is very close to the local color of the lips. If that was too dark, it wouldn't work. So we have to make sure that those, and also the creases follow the form of the lip, right? So they're not going straight up and down, they're kind of rolling with that lip. See that? And that's an important consideration. So we want to make sure that the values are very close to, and that's called compression, very close to the value of the lip itself. So those creases, if they were too dark, it just wouldn't work. And also they vary in thickness and everything like that. And you don't want to make them, you know, equidistant and the same size. So those are important considerations as well. Ah, thanks, Dwayne. Dwayne says this is definitely better than a nap. I appreciate you, sir. And thank you for that. And I know how great a nap feels, right? So that's not an easy thing. That's a compliment. Because naps feel good. When I was a little kid, I hated naps, but now it's like, oh man, that's a good nap. So now I could use my, so you see the creases have to be very close in value to the local color or the local value of the lips. Otherwise it won't work. It'll look like she has a tattoo on the lip, and that's not good. Okay, so now what we can do, since and there's something that's a little too dark here. See how we can fix that? So that's good. So now I could illustrate what happens on the side of the lips, right? There's a fat compartment that comes out in a muscle, the angulite oris, the pressor angulite oris, and that's this muscle that comes down from here. So I'm going to test my airbrush first, because we're going to go super subtle here. Super subtle. So right here on the corner, there's a shadow. See how we bring that shadow down? It's super subtle. I'm going to be far away. So we have that super subtlety that's more lower than the upper lip than below, but it still kind of comes out from the upper lip on the corner there. See, on the top lip you'll see it. And then we see it a little bit more on this side, but what you really see is the light on the dark side. And there's too much contrast here. And now you can start to see the depressor angle light oris on this side, because at the angle the light is hitting it. So we're seeing this value here. So the corner of the eye has a lot more going on than just, you know, where the lip ends. There's a lot going on. There's a fat compartment in the muscle that kind of comes outside and casts a little shadow on the corner of the upper lip. So why is this important? Because a lot of us work in color, and you'd be like, well, I don't work in black and white. But here's the beauty of it, that with this you can do an underpainting that will have all of your questions solved, right? I mean, you'll have a lot of your questions about value and edge work, so now you just have to worry about color. And it's such a great advantage. And so what you do is, once I'm done with this, if I wanted to make it an oil painting, I could go ahead and shellac her and then go over with oil, and I'll have the most beautiful underpainting you've ever seen. And underpainting that oil painters wish they had, because you cannot get the gradations in airbrush that no medium is going to give you the beautiful gradations that you can get with airbrush, right? No one can dispute that. I don't care how good that oil painter is, we can get a soft edge faster and better than anyone. Mr. Mark, how you doing, Mark? Great to see you from Canada, Calgary, right? So glad to see you. I hope you're doing well. I'm so glad you're here. So that is so cool. And not even close, right, Dwayne? Not even close. Oil painters, watercolor artists could only dream about getting the edges that we get. So why not combine the beauty of the edge work in our underpainting and then going over that with oil? The best of both worlds, a secret weapon, and it's really great. And I use it for pastel and everything. Oh, I'm so glad you're doing well, my friend. That is so good. I'm so glad you're here, sir. Thank you for hanging out on this Wednesday. So here's something right here. Look how hard edge. This is the clavicle coming out with the hair around it. That's this clavicle form. This is a soft edge, but since I used the stencils, I created a hard edge. It's not the end of the world, so that means I just have to work on it. So I'm going to take this semi-aggressive eraser. It might be a little bit too aggressive, but how I'm going to soften this is a little different. I'm going to do little I think I touched on this last week. Let me put this back here, and we'll zoom in, and I'll show you my technique. Now this has to be dry, bone dry. If there's any wetness and we do this, we're going to tear up that paper like you wouldn't believe. So now I'm going to take this aggressive eraser, and I'm going to do little circular motions kind of on the inside and outside of that border, right? I'm going to just kind of obliterate that line. And I'm being really soft, really like gentle. Pretend you're actually, you know, working on her clavicle. You don't want to hurt her, so you're going to be super gentle. That's so important. And Dwayne says he likes to do monochromatic. It helps him keep things in perspective. Doesn't it, Dwayne? And also, it really forces us just to worry about our control, right? And it really is. It really is a wonderful to do that. You're right. It kind of gives you balance, right? And we work in color, and color's great. It gets a lot of attention, but we always have to go back to our fundamentals every now and then. So notice how I went ahead and kind of obliterated that edge, right? Really obliterated it. So now we don't have to worry about that edge. That's another thing. In airbrush, you can get soft edges hard edges that would really be difficult in any other medium. And we can do it in 30 seconds, right? Which is so cool. And so that's very important. So we're taking now you see we set up to kind of kill that edge. So now I can kind of come in to both. And I'm not trying to make it clean and beautiful in one shot. I'm just going to hit it, let it dry, let the ink catch up to the surface that you're working on, whether it's a wall or a fender, in this case paper. Let that ink catch up to that paper. Let it soak in, so this way you don't get spidering, which is not good, you know? Hey, Mr. Todd, how's it going? Great to see you, my friend. It's always a pleasure. How's life out there in San Diego? The Mets were playing San Diego Padres over the weekend, and I think we split the series 2-2. So that's pretty cool. And notice how I softened it. Now this is blown up, so that's why you're seeing all that weirdness, but when you see it from normal area, it doesn't look as messy. But you can see how soft I made those edges. And as I zoom out a little bit, you can see just how I solved that problem. See how we softened that edge? And that's it. You know, if you have a hard edge in airbrush, you just have to obliterate that edge and then go ahead and reestablish the soft edge. When I use India ink, I don't really have to worry about too much paintbrush technique because the amount of control you have is really cool. And Airbrush Dungeon says in automotive fantasy stuff, he's done all he could. Would do all the detail in monochrome. Fascinating. And then candies like coloring. Oh, how great. I love candies. Candies are amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. So cool. And add highlights and Bob's your uncle. That's amazing. I'd love to see that. Love to see some of your work one day, and thank you for that. That's great info. I love candies. I did candies with this, let me see if I can show you guys real quick, if you don't mind. I have here, I did a painting. I don't know if I still have it readily available. I mean, I have it available, I just can't see it. It is a Jaguar. Oh, here we do have it. So this is done with candies, with an India ink underpainting. So I want to show you guys. I had a lot of fun. And remember what I said earlier, that, you know, when we put the shellac, the paper will actually take, you know, a clear coat. So this is what I did with candies. I really love candies a lot. And you can see how, you know, the candies really came in with the eye and everything. And so just really enjoy it. So I definitely love candies too. I need to work in them more because candies are very similar to the India ink, right? And so I need to explore that a little bit more. Oh, so Dwayne does the same. That is so great. Great minds think alike, right? And Todd says he was watching the game and the Cardinals won. Oh man, sorry about that. And Dave says, nice, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun with that painting. That was actually a class project I done with a student, and they had the candies as well. And you know, candies are, I don't know if they're used in automotive a lot, but I don't think they're utilized in stuff like this, and they should be. So I think I'm going to do a live stream project using candies, and I think you all will enjoy that. So that's on the docket. Hey Nick, how's it going? Great to see you. How are you, sir? Nick says Candy 2.0 is not bad stuff, not like House of Color candy. The stuff back in the day was much more vibrant. Oh, yes. Oh, and Airbrush Onion says, nice job. Candies are like magic, aren't they? So great. Nick, I believe you're from Oklahoma, Midwest. Where are you from, Nick? So it's great to see you, and that is so great. Yes, Candy 2.0 is a lot of fun to work with. And you guys are inspiring me, so stay tuned for some Candies 2.0 work going. Just a full painting using it, you know? I really enjoy it. Really enjoy the candies. A lot harder to get Candy 2.0 to pop the same. Yeah, you know, but it's all about, I look at it this way. I work with transparents and oil paints, so it's all about having that light color underneath to really, you know, it's like that. Since it's a transparent, it's only going to have the brightness underneath. So I may, you know, over brighten using white underneath it and then put the candies on top and it really explodes. So I really like doing that. Okay, so we're going to go to her breast area, and that's an area we haven't worked too much. So I'm going to go with the paintbrush technique a little bit, and we're going to use my diluted detail mixture. Oh, Minnesota! Oh, great! Now, are you from the Wisconsin side of Minnesota? Like on Alaska? I know that's there. Uh, You know, I have friends who live in that part of Wisconsin, which is pretty close to Minnesota, which is great. And Dwayne says he likes to use House of Color candies, but once in a while it's a done deal. Oh, cool. And Nick says he sprayed some House of Color from the late 70s on his English wheel, and it looks like it's glowing. Oh, man, that is amazing. Nick says, yeah, 25 minutes north of Twin Cities. Oh, great. So you are around there. There he is, Raul. How's it going, my friend? Yes, Raul does some incredible stuff with candies. You got to see his work. The man is amazing. You know, just so you use candies a lot, and I can see that glow that you get in your portraits. It's really just wonderful, you know. So I'm hitting the cleavage, and now I'm going to come in and support that with the airbrush, right? So I'm going to use my freehand shield because I want to delineate the near breast from the far breast. So I'm going to come here like this, and actually it's interesting. Up here, the far breast is lighter and the near breast is darker. Down here, the far breast is lighter and the near breast is darker, or vice versa. But let's make this happen. So I'm going to put this here, and we're going to hit this dark. I'm going to be about 3 inches away. So distance is everything, right? When you're painting, distance is everything, everything, everything. So please make sure when you're painting you take in consideration the distance. Just play around the airbrush. Know what your airbrush does from different distances. It's going to make a big difference in your work, in your control, right? You can see how from certain distances my airbrush is doing different things. So I can pretty much say, I need this softness further. I need this distance. I need this detail closer, right? So going back and forth. I worked so hard for this edge in her blouse, right? I worked so hard to get that. I'm not going to blow it by coming in there. So I'm going to put back my stencil. And see how, I'm going to have to soften that up. It's a little harsh. So I know I have to soften that up. So that's in back of my mind to soften that up. And then we'll just come here. And then it turns. But the compression right here is so soft that you don't see the turn so easily. So those values, it almost looks like one value. But the fact that see how soft that is? See how close those values are? It creates a much more sensual feeling of that. And also I'm envisioning the turning of that form. You know, I'm not being fresh, but I'm just envisioning the turning of that form, because that's what's going to give it that three-dimensional quality, right? And that's so important. And Raul says, thank you, Tim. I'm inspired by your India ink work and recently bought some FW acrylic inks to give them a go. Raul, definitely, but be wary. The FW inks are not going to be acting the same way because it's acrylic, so you won't be able to erase the pencil lines. Just be careful. I don't want you to have pencil lines trapped underneath your amazing artwork, so be careful. And he gets that AD, I really use them anymore, only in small spots. I really want pop. Oh, great. So Nick says, I recently tried the Candy 2.0 using the 40/40 and 40/50 as an intercoat for the candy along with House of Color SG100 mixture. Very interesting. And so House of Color candy concentrates are awesome. He had to stop using solvent base for health reasons. Oh man, I hope you're feeling okay. Are you doing okay right now? So, oh, thank you. Raul says I'm amazing. Right back at you, sir. And Airbrush Dungeon says he hasn't tried the bleed checker. That is, I'm going to try. And Dwayne says he quit using the Createx bleed checker. Wicked transparent base works the same and can be used for many other applications. So the Wicked transparent base, huh? That's great. And that's different than the 40/50 gloss, right, sir? So the transparent base, I think I have some of that. Let me see if I do have it. I have a couple right here. I have, well, I don't have the transparent base, so I definitely have to get me some transparent base. And so that's cool. Nick says it's thick stuff, not supposed to reduce, so it's a spray gun. Oh, I see. And Nick says it's a yellow bottle. And Dwayne's, okay, so that's cool. So definitely look into the transparent, Wicked transparent base. Fantastic. So great information. What I'm going to do before I go, I want to get the shadow on this breast here, but I don't want to lose my beautiful edge work. So I'm going to get the covering of just the just a dress. I want to maintain that edge. So remember, every battle, as Sun Tzu said in the great book The Art of War, that every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. So by having this, I just won a battle before I ever fought it. So I'm going to put this right here. I want to cover this. And then I'm going to get my low profile magnets, because you don't want to cast a shadow on where you're going to paint the shadow, because you're going to think you painted it, but it was just the cast shadow of the magnets that's doing it. And so we have this perfect. Now we're going to take this, paying attention, it's more shadow on this part of the breast. And it's also going to help us keep that edge. And then there's more shadow here. And then it's a soft edge. So we have this compressed form here as her breast is turning. And then we can soften this edge using that eraser technique. And now even give it a little bit extra here. So we want to really accentuate the hard edge of her blouse. So we'll put this here. Remember, every war is won or lost before it's ever fought, and now I have that beautiful edge, right? So by making that stencil, I'm really, Todd, have a great night. Thanks for hanging out. It doesn't matter when you get here as long as we get to hang out and talk for a while. Airbrush Dungeon says SG100 is amazing, great information. And Dwayne says wicked transparent base is wicked without any pigments. How cool. So that is really neat. And Nick says back in the day, he started DCB 500, then switched to SG 100. I feel it's similar, but PPG is crazy expensive. Oh man. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out. And Mr. Dave, via con Dios with your travels. And be safe and enjoy Boston and your family that you'll see and all this other stuff. I just hope it's just going to enrich your soul to travel. Nick, it's great to see you, and Dwayne and Dave and Raul, it's great to see you. We hung out with Airbrush Dungeon. We hung out with Karina. Everyone was just super cool. Mark was in the house, and we had Patrick and just so many, Mike and everyone. I just want to thank everyone for the super chats, and the pinned comment on top is subscribe to Mr. Mike. Okay, he has just amazing live stream he does. He wants to reach 50, but we want to get him to 100. So please subscribe to him if you can. Colette, thank you for the super chat. And thank you, Chris, for the super chat. Michael, thank you for the super chat. And thank you, Mr. Dave, for the super chat. It doesn't go all the way back to the beginning, so thank everyone for the super chats. Dwayne, I really appreciate you. Michael McClung, Mr. Dave Gregory, for your continued support and everything. It's just fantastic. Hope to see you next Wednesday. If not, see you in September sometime. Yes, in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, I'm going to send a package out to you, and it's going to have everything for you. And, always drop me a line and let me know how you're doing if I don't see you before September. Take care, everybody. You all are super amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time with me on a Wednesday. You guys enriched my soul and blessed me with that. And I hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody. And you all are amazing. God bless.